Hello and welcome back to a very heavy slice of Britain. Because for 20 points this week in winter, also known as the dry season, you can go ahead and grab yourself the Aston-Martin Lagonda from 1990. And I'll tell you now, this thing does not have a good launch stock. However, the stats are very interesting. This thing's stock has 289 brake horsepower, 321 foot-pounds of torque, and weighs a whopping 4,550 pounds. It is a very, very hefty thing indeed. Now, from the front, it's very, very interesting because, well, it's very boxy. A bit like the designs back in the 1980s, except this thing actually managed to escape the 80s. Looking to the side, it has a very, very long bonnet, and, well, it's interesting. Certainly interesting at that. I'd probably equal the shape of this thing to maybe something like a door wedge. And then going to the back, it does look pretty good indeed. I definitely do like that lights layout. I don't know what it is about that. It's just good. And then we go to the inside. For the center console, there's pretty much nothing. But when we get to the dashboard, that's when things get interesting, because we have an absolute heap of buttons. But if we have a look in the middle, yeah, that is a fully working digital dashboard straight out of the 1990s, which is honestly insane. And now let's try and see if we can take a listen to this thing and get a good launch. So here we are now in the upgrade shop. The first thing I do is going straight to conversion and then checking out the engine swaps, because we have three available. We have got the 8.4 litre V10, we've got a 3.5 litre V8, and also a 6.5 litre V12. Which honestly is absolutely insane. As far as it goes to drivetrains, you can go ahead and make this thing all-wheel drive, which we'll be doing a little bit later on when it comes to trying to find out the top speed of this thing. And also you can go ahead and, I believe, either turbocharge or supercharge the stock engine, which is pretty good indeed, and is definitely going to need that power. Because as we discussed already, this thing is very heavy. So going over to aero and appearance. For the front, we've just got regular Forza aero, which is very interesting. There's no tow hook this time, which is pretty good. At least it doesn't spoil that much of the car. And then going to the back, we have got, well, I think it's safe to say it's one of the very few times that that style of rear wing actually fits the car, which is very, very interesting indeed, and I never thought I'd hear myself say that. And checking the stats, apparently that took this thing down to D class as well. However, our resident mechanic is back once again with a brand new tune with a very good name, Subscribe to Tech. Please do that. We're trying to get to 1,200 by the end of the year. But let's go ahead and haul up the share code. There it is. Feel free to go ahead and grab that and download it for yourself. And we're going to do that now and just see what this tune is all about. So with the upgrades, this thing is now a lot lighter at 3,434 pounds with a whopping 600 brake horsepower. All that at the top of A class for 73,700 credits. This could get very interesting. Okay, so jumping over to the paint shop now, having a look at the advanced. There's sadly nothing in advanced for this thing, but if we go to manufacturer colors, we've got a lot. We've got ourselves 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different colors for this thing, and to be honest, the white does look very, very nice indeed, and very, very posh as well. And then we get to the light blue, and that is just, me like. So while we load into the race, I had a little look online, and I found something interesting. Roughly around 645 of these were ever made, and out of all of those, surviving on UK roads, there's only currently 35. So that is absolutely insane. So if you ever get a chance to spot one of these in the wild, let me know, because I will definitely be on the lookout for one. And away we go. We're up against a whole heap of other various assorted vehicles. In fact, I think that might be yep, that's a Silvia over there. We have got a Toyota Supra behind us. I need to focus on where I'm going. Okay, first turn. How do we do? Is 600 brake horsepower. This thing is, well, it's not too bad, but it's not fantastic either. Then again, this thing is exceedingly heavy. Right, and on the brakes, I was told these were good, and they definitely are indeed. Round the outside of the skyline, and now we're chasing down an MX-5. Make that in front of the MX-5, but the MX-5 is considerably cheaper, because if you want to find any of these things used in the UK, they're anywhere between 60 to 100,000 pounds, which is approximately this in US dollar. And in the time I've been talking, we're now ahead of pretty much everybody. Okay, maybe this thing is pretty good after all. I mean, it's good after a lot of upgrading anyway. Now, an interesting thing about the Lagonda is apparently the name was derived from the Lagonda group that Aston Martin had purchased back in 1947. So that's very, very interesting indeed. What else is interesting is we are now at 95% left to go. One more turn, the finish line is there. Everybody's quite close this time around, but across we go with a first place. And let's see, a time of 2 minutes 10.130. Not bad. Now, before we take a look at some more upgrades for this thing, we're going to check out the Horizon backstage and see what there is this week. As it turns out, there's the Ferrari 512TR and the Citroen BX40C versus the BMW 850 CSI and the Lancia Delta S4, which is going to be very, very interesting. So it's a battle of, well, these. Let's see, what do we want? I think because we had a Ferrari that kind of won the vote last week, we're going to go with a BMW and a Lancia Delta. In the meantime, going back to the Aston Martin, which is the main focus of this video, let's go ahead and have a look at the drag tune. Let's go ahead, pull up the share code. There it is. Feel free to go ahead and grab that for yourself. And I'm going to do that now, and we're going to take a look at the stats. I've got a feeling they're going to be very impressive indeed. So with those upgrades applied, we're now at £3,593 with a whopping 1,452 brake horsepower. Okay, so here we are now over at the back of the festival. Let's go ahead and see. Do we get a wheelie check out of this thing? I've got a feeling we kind of do. I mean, it also bounces a bit at the front, which is very interesting. Yeah, I have no idea what that says. Anyway, here we are now over at the edge of the drag strip. So let's go ahead and away we go. Starting off on a little bit of launch control. Thankfully, the launch in this thing for this tune is a lot better than the stock launch, because that is genuinely kind of abysmal. Let's go ahead and see what we get through the camera. It should be, there we go, 187, and off the end of the drag strip at 209, and absolutely zero brakes. Still better than stock though. However, now it is our time to have a go at this thing. So let's go ahead and go to conversion, engine swaps, find out what engine was used. It was a 6.5 litre V12, which I think is a Lamborghini engine, if I remember rightly. Let's go ahead and, of course, slap on some twin turbos. And we're also going to go ahead and make this thing all-wheel drive as well, because we're making this thing a top-speed build. Or rather, hoping so anyway. So after a lot of upgrading, we're now at £3,869 with a 1,515 brake horsepower just around the top of S1. This thing is about to be a monster. And now time for the fun bit. I've got to go ahead and try and tune this thing. However, before we go any further, here's this week's Forzathon shop. We've got the Lotus Elise GT1, we've got a Horizon backstage pass, the Doodle Classic Shades, the number 777 Nissan 240 Formula Drift car. We also have the Doom E1 M1 High car home, which sounds a bit like this. Very nice. We also have the Horizon Super Wheelspin and the regular Horizon Wheelspin as well. And now, out to the motorway. Okay, so following tradition of all these videos, I've gone ahead and plonked a little waypoint or a little marker down on the map. Let's go ahead and see how close to the motorway grate we've gotten today. Are we there? Are we in front of it? Are we behind it? Oh, we are very, very, very far behind it. Oh, wow. I've missed that motorway grate before, but I think this might be a new one. Anyway, here we are now at the edge of the motorway. This thing looks straight out of a Thunderbirds movie. I think that's about the only way to describe it. Let's go ahead and get ourselves on to a launch control, and away we go. Let's go ahead and see what we can get out of this thing. 1,515 brake horsepower. This thing's going to be mental. Or rather, I hope it will be. And out the speed zone, 244.95, and we are still accelerating, which means this thing's got a lot more go than I first thought it did. So now we've got to go ahead, go to the downhill and the speed camera and find out just how quick this thing actually is. Alright, the camera should be, there it is, 258.54, going downhill, 262, 263, 264, do we get 265? We do. Any more than that? No, just 265 miles an hour, which for this thing is genuinely kind of impressive, and also somewhat terrifying, to be honest. So we can do all the previous things, but can it drift? Let's go ahead and find out. We're going to throw this thing in here and see what we get. It's very, very sideways, which for this thing is kind of surprising. And out the edge of the drift zone at 36,737 points. Pretty good indeed. And to be honest, really, really surprising. And now it's time for round number 2. This time going back the other way. Let's go ahead and see what this thing can do. It's got over 30,000 to beat. Let's try and see if it can do it again at 38,488 points. Which, to be honest, I think might even be more than last time. So while this thing might not be fantastic from stock, once you start throwing upgrades at it, this thing is genuinely an absolute monster. And at the very least, I mean, come on, look at that digital dashboard, it's fantastic. But this thing is only at 20 points and should take roughly around half an hour of your time to get, and I've got to say, it's definitely worth getting. In the meantime, that is this video on the Aston-Martin Lagonda. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and of course, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Check out. See ya! Makes me wonder, what's next?